EU strikes historic migration deal. Negotiators work through the night to agree on the overhaul of the EU's asylum procedures. It only took them 25 years of whinging by the general public to finally get around to actually trying to do something about migration. But you know what the funniest part of it is? Well, obviously it's painfully clear that the only reason they're doing it now is because of a resurgence of support for far-right parties. And obviously in this day and age, far-right means anybody that isn't a woke lunatic, that can't do basic mathematics and isn't aware that there's 4 billion people champing at the bit to get into Europe. And funny old thing, there isn't space for them all. But the funniest thing about this story was, basically, it reads like one of Tony Sopranos' threats to a business he's racketeered. Under the agreement, which still needs to be ratified, frontline countries in southern Europe will institute a stricter asylum procedure at their non-EU borders and will be more empowered to deport rejected asylum seekers. Countries further inland will be given a choice of whether to accept a certain number of migrants or pay to an EU fund. A choice, yeah. A Hobson's choice. Essentially, reading that made me think of Tony Soprano saying something like, "You got a nice country here. Be a shame if something happened to it." Right, so it's obvious what's going on here. It's a shakedown by the EU mafia. They will be sending migrants to your house, no matter where you live. You could live 200 miles from the border, or they're coming. Ursula von Scheisserporn is putting them in a taxi, filling the boot with hissing backpacks and sending them to your granny's house. Unless, of course, you grease the wheels a little bit. Migration is a European challenge that requires European solutions. Yeah, she's right, because the mafia were European, right? The Cosa Nostra comes from Italy, and that is definitely in Europe. At least she's being honest. This is further signalling a unified EU backing of stricter measures to combat the rising popularity of anti-immigrant far-right platforms across Europe. Ooh, let's just think of this logically, right? Everybody they've said is far-right in the last 20 years isn't. That Javier Milei is not far-right. Viktor Orban is not far-right. 20 years ago, talking about enforcing the law and having a border for your bloody country and doing basic medical and background checks for people was not considered far-right. Obama deported more Mexicans than George W. Bush did. You can't just pick one single issue, border control. And if the person is applying the law as it's written, because it's always been the law, there've been border controls and rules and regulations and background checks since I've existed on planet Earth, and that's over 40 years. Far-right used to mean full-blown ethnic hatred, killing journalists, free helicopter rides, one testicle and a pathetic toothbrush moustache, things that make you laugh when you watch films about it. The old helicopter rides. It's grimly amusing because it's not something that civilized people want to see happen in the world. But none of the people being slurred as far-right are far-right. Le Pen isn't far-right. Even Bill Maher's been talking about this, saying, like, you listen to what they say, there's nothing far-right about them. Farage isn't far-right. Orban isn't far-right. None of them. They don't lock up journalists, bury judges, kill student activists, aggressively deport people that were born there based off their ancestry. Nobody does any of that stuff. The only group of people that appear to worship and expand the power of the state are the people running the world. Ursula von Scheisserporn and all of the wankers that run the EU are authoritarian statists. They've got more in common with the far right than some wet blanket like Nigel Farage or Le Pen ever could have, and it's obvious to anyone who's not a lunatic. The deal comes 6 months before the EU election, with polls showing a surge in support for parties that aren't ridiculous authoritarian statists in league with Silicon Valley and the mainstream media. That's what they are. Stop saying it. The debate around immigration is set to be decisive and divisive in 2024. Yeah, because people are tired of seeing people that only moved to the country 4 or 5 years ago blow little girls up and stab kids in the eye on the back of the bus. Call me a bluff-owl traditionalist, but I like to think getting on a bus doesn't involve my teenage daughter getting fingered on the way to school. I mean, I'm just putting it out there. Controversial, I know. Full details of the political deal have not been released. Oh yeah, so it'll probably be worse than useless then, eh? Yeah, about as much use as a nun's tits. Are they really going to do anything when they haven't done anything for the last 30 years? It's like the Tories who talk a good game on immigration until they get elected, and then they spend 12 years doing absolutely nothing. It's rhetoric. They're saying it because there's elections coming up, and like all authoritarian statists, they will do and say anything to remain in power. But trust me, they will do less work than John Wayne's safety catch on the immigration issue. They're not interested. It's not happening. Nothing to see here. But let me know what you think. If you disagree because you're, for some insane reason, optimistic about the chances of these deranged walkists in actually doing anything useful, so any tiny minuscule things that might slightly improve your lot in life, please let me know. Please. I think you're a maniac, but I enjoy the discourse. Unlike many people, I do enjoy laughing at the ramblings of the mentally deficient. So if you think this is going to be the solution to all of our problems, please let me know. Otherwise, yeah, you have to laugh, don't you? That will have to do you for the day, ladies and gents, but I'm doing a live stream at 7 p.m. tomorrow for Christmas, and then I'm buggering off to see my mother-in-law. So yeah, I'll see you all at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. See you then. Toodle pip. Cheers.